Anime studios have been a pretty hot button issue in anime discussion for a good while now, with a growing debate over whether or not these things add anything to the conversation. The most popular argument from the opposing side essentially seems to be that anime studios are collectives of people with varying styles, approaches, and philosophies to creating shows and should be treated as such rather than as monolithic institutions made up of ostensibly identical creators. Now, I can largely sympathize and agree with a great deal of this argument. You could easily make the point that directors, writers, animators, and the like are often shafted, and by and large given little to no attention in favor of the big studio. Take even Studio Ghibli, the most famous anime studio of all time. Let's do a little exercise. Off the top of your head, can you name 3 animators and 5 directors from Studio Ghibli that aren't Hayao Miyazaki or Isao Takahata? I'm willing to bet you can't. And it's not like it's your fault for not knowing this, we're trained to think this way. Because a flashy one-word name and a cool graphic paired with loads of careful advertising and marketing is a hell of a lot easier for our brains to remember than the name of some guy in a language most Western anime fans aren't even particularly familiar with. I am 100% on board with giving directors, writers, and animators just as much fame and respect as these studios bringing them together. It would be pretty amazing if Shoji Saiki was just as well known as Gainax itself. However, even if I do very much understand where these people are coming from, I still firmly believe that anime studios do in fact matter to the conversation, and I will explain why. Take for example another art form such as the novel. In most cases, the novel might have editors and proofreaders and the like, but you can ostensibly credit everything you see in it to the author. However, with anime, there are so many more variables to consider. Even earlier in this very video, I discussed how great it would be if talented directors, writers, and animators got every bit as much attention as the studios behind the shows in question. However, this itself has its own major problem in that nearly every show has a ridiculous number of animators. To focus on each individual animator in every single show might be a fun exercise, but it's just not something that the vast majority of people would be willing to do, and for good reason. Especially since these studios typically have common threads throughout all their work, and in most cases it's not like said animators, directors, and writers aren't trying to fit into that mold. Beyond this, there really aren't that many studios that have massive diehard fan bases that are automatically crazy about every single show they come out with, so it's not like we're running into an issue of hordes of people blindly adoring shows just because of the studios behind them, with a few obvious exceptions. Overall, I think that studios are the most helpful way of referring to the teams behind one of the most inherently collaborative mediums of art, and I see no reason to minimize their level of precedence in anime discussion. If you like this video, check out my other anime videos that are all upwards of 2 years old now, Jesus Christ. And if you like those too, consider subscribing to the channel. If you have something to add about studios, feel free to leave it in the comments because I read all of them. Also check out my second channel and my big playlist. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next week.